Hey, this is Beth. It's been a few weeks since I began making my first sourdough starter. And I have not just started my first sourdough starter, I've also done a little bit different of having a challenge of I'm not using flours that I purchased from the store. I'm grinding my own wheat. And the only flour that I'm using is Kamut flour. So I've looked at different recipes. I've gone on YouTube and looked for, how to start your first loaf of bread, mistakes not to make, cooking with Kamut specifically. And so there's just a lot of, the sourdough world is pretty big. There are a lot of people out there making sourdough bread, and which is really good because for me, as a naturopathic doctor, as an iridologist, I often recommend people not eat bread. And that kind of conflicts with my belief of bread being good for us because bread is in the Bible. And if bread is in the Bible and Jesus himself calls himself the bread of life, then there should be something good and life-giving about bread. And it's my belief that what we have done to our bread, to our wheat, and to our flour that makes bread not so good for us. And going back to sourdough, doing sourdough bread is a better bread because of the fermentation. The gluten is already being broken down. It's easier for us to digest. It's easier on our digestive systems. I also believe that because companies grind the flour, they still have to make it shelf stable. And there's oil in the wheat germ. There's wheat germ oil and vitamin E in the wheat, in the grains, and they will turn rancid on the shelves. So I grind my own flour, and right now I'm using Kamut, and I grind my own flour and I make enough that I can put it in the freezer, because in the freezer it'll stop the process of it going rancid for about 2 weeks. So I don't grind that much flour. I have a whisper mill that I've had for 25 or so years. I've had it a long time. It's a good machine. It works really well. So I'm just sharing all of this because as I get ready to do the next step of actually making my first, I'm so excited. I've used the discard. My husband really loves making what we call fry bread or hot bread. I don't know the technical name for it. I guess I need to look that up. But I'm excited because I'm actually getting ready to start making my first sourdough loaf. And it's going to be from Kamut. And if this doesn't work, if it fails, that's okay. I'll start again. I'll still have some sourdough that I can try again. Yeah, I'm really excited. I think it's going to be great. I hope it's going to be great. I've made bread before using the dried yeast. And so I've done some really fabulous things with that in the past. I would make pizza rolls, homemade pizza crust that we would do, challah bread. I've done all kinds of things with making it using yeast. Now I'm looking forward to using the sourdough starter. So here we go. So one of the first things that I was told is to start with a half a cup of my starter. So what I want to do is I've got my scale and I've got my sourdough. I've been feeding my sourdough starter morning and evening for 2 or 3 weeks. So much longer than probably some people have done it. But I've had some very busy things going on. I've had Brilliant Health with Beth Weekend Away event. I've had a family get together with my siblings that we have together in honor and memory of my parents. So we had an out-of-town trip. And so I've just been feeding this for a really long time. My husband's been using the discard to make his hot fry bread, and I've made a couple of loaves of banana bread. And I'll share one of those with you in another video. I'll make that up. But today I'm doing the sourdough bread, and it says to use a half a cup of your starter. So I'm going to take and I'm going to put my big old bowl and I'm going to do my tare so that it clears that out. And then I'm going to stir this up. So I'm stirring my starter up. It does go down a little bit, but stirring it up. But that's just how bubbly it's been is wonderful. It's just amazing. It smells good. And we're going to use half a cup. So 1/2 cup is 4 ounces. So I'm gonna measure 4 ounces into my bowl. And the bowl is really big. And just a dibble more. There we go, that actually says 4 ounces. What a mess. All right, I'll have to clean that up in a minute. So I've got my 1/2 ounce of my starter in my bowl, and I'm gonna use 1.5 cups of water. Now, I've gone and I've gotten spring water because I have a reverse osmosis filter on my house, on my kitchen sink, because I live on a well, and so I want to make sure, even though there's no chlorine, it's still not the purest water, so we use reverse osmosis. Well, reverse osmosis doesn't have the minerals in it that the yeast need. So we're going to do what was suggested, to use 1.5 cups of water. And he did say to do it at 90 degrees. I did not warm this because my thermostat that I use to measure how hot my temperatures are is not working, and my battery operated ones that my husband uses are dead on batteries, and I'm just, oh my goodness, it's just one thing after another, isn't it? But we're gonna do the 1.5 cups. So there's one, and yes, I'm using dry measures instead of liquid measures, and they work just fine. 1.5 cups of water. Okay, all right, and then we're gonna take a spatula and we're just gonna stir it well. Now what we wanna do next is add our flour. So I've already ground my kamut, and like I said, I put this in the freezer. I grind it, I have a whisper mill. So this is my whisper mill right here. And that's what I've been using for the past 20 plus something years. I've had that for quite a while. So I've already ground my kamut, and it says to use 4 cups and 2 tablespoons of flour. So I'm gonna measure out 4 cups. That's 4, and then we're also supposed to use 2 more tablespoons of flour. So 1, 2. But I like this because it fits into my spice jars. So the round will sometimes keep the my spoon from going in the spice jars, where the oblong I can put it in. I actually have a stainless steel set that I also really like because it's oblong and it goes into my spices. But I like that one too because it's black and red. I love black and red colors. They stick together. They're always there for me. So there we go. Now what we want to do is we want to mix this together until it's what they call shaggy. So that doesn't seem like enough water. I've always done this before where it's like the yeast. I'm doing the yeast, so you want it smooth. You want the texture to be smooth, but this we want to be shaggy. Well, this is definitely shaggy. It is crumbly, and so I'm gonna work on this a minute. It seems to be a little more crumbly and less holding together than what I'm used to. And I should have already added my salt. I skipped a step, so hold on, let me go add my salt. Now, what I'm doing here is the recipe called for fine salt. Well, I use Himalayan salt. The recipe calls for 2 teaspoons of salt, fine salt. Well, the ones I use, I actually order a really big 25-pound bag, and I've done it so many years ago. I'm gonna have to see, I have to look up who I did. So 2 teaspoons, and it says fine. Well, this is not fine. This is a little coarse. So I'm just gonna take my mortar and pestle, and I'm gonna grind that just a little. So there, I've just made it, a little bit more fine than normal. So let me put that in. And I have to say that I am, because it's just a little too crumbly. Let's show you. See, it's just a little too crumbly. It's a little too crumbly. So you look at it and it's like, it's not really shaggy, it's crumbly. So I'm gonna add just I think I'm gonna add 1/8 of a cup so that I'm not overdoing it, and maybe the warm water makes a difference. See, that's another thing. That may be the thing that I should have said, oh no, I'll heat up that water. I'll heat up that water. Okay, so I've added an 1/8 of a cup of water, and you'll see that when I touch it with my hands, it's still very crumbly. It's not shaggy, it's crumbly. But I'm concerned about adding a little bit more water than that. So, what do we do? Good question. What do we do? Do we add a little bit more water to make it stick a little bit more together? Or is this one going to be a bust and I'm going to find that I should have added 90-degree water? I'm going to have to get my thermometer, get me a new thermometer so I can measure the temperature of my water. But I would say it's shaggy. Okay, so that's what we're looking at right there. It's really shaggy. All right, but we mixed it together, and the next thing we're supposed to do is we're supposed to take a damp cloth without, like a tea towel that doesn't have a lot of, what do you call it? Lint. We don't want the fiber. All right, so I have my towel that doesn't have a lot of fiber. Notice, black and red, black and red. I love black and red. But I'm gonna wet this. Now I'm going to wet it with my reverse osmosis water because it is pure, it's clean. But this is just to add moisture to the atmosphere. It's not going in the water. It doesn't have the chlorine, so it's not going to kill the yeast. But that's all we're using it for. So, okay, so we've covered this up. And the next thing we do is we let it sit for an hour. Okay, it's been an hour. And I have to say that I was hoping that the moisture in the cloth would be enough moisture in the dough. But as we see, it's still really crumbly. It's not coming together. So I either don't have enough flour. I don't know. Since this is my first time and I'm using Kamut, and I looked at a Kamut recipe and it definitely didn't look like this. So it's not stretchy at all. So I'm working it just a little bit as we go along. As we see here, I'm working it just. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to proceed. I might have to add extra turns or whatever, but we're working on because it is coming together. It is starting to come together a little bit. So I'm going to add some water to my fingers. I'm going to do what we call, or they call, because autolysing is new to me. So I'm going to work on autolysing my dough. Okay, my first 20 minutes after the first folding has happened, and I'm getting ready to come check on my bread. So I'm pulling off my towel, and I have to say that's actually looking not terrible. I'm not gonna say it's looking great, okay? But I will say it's not looking terrible. It's springing. When I push into it, it does spring back up. So here, I feel very mixed feelings about this because I'm going, I think it feels very heavy. It's not light. It's not, I'm not like where I've seen other people's videos where I'm going, oh, there's bubbles in there. There's no bubbles. I'm not seeing the yeast. I'm seeing the bread springing, but I'm not seeing the yeast. So I'm going to cover it again for 20 minutes. This will be, that's the second time I folded. It takes 4 folds according to that one. We'll see what happens. Okay, it's only been a couple of minutes since I did the last folding. So I went back and I watched my video, that I was watching, and one of the things that I didn't really realize I was supposed to be doing, I was folding, but I wasn't stretching. So I'm going to do that. So now, even though it's still kind of heavy and I'm still kind of feeling like I may have a loser here on my hands. That's more of what I was anticipating seeing. Okay, I'm really a little bit excited. My timer's gone off one more time, and I am going to come in here and fold my my dough one more time. This will be the third time of folding, and I'm excited because when I went back and watched the videos, he does a stretch and fold. He does 4 times, 4 stretches and folds, and so that's not when it's supposed to be bubbly. So I'm really excited. Let's see how it goes, okay? Okay, this is my last stretch and fold. I've got this covered with a beautiful Love Bugs cloth. I've got that red and black and white theme going today. I didn't plan it, just as what I keep grabbing out of my cabinet. I obviously love red and black and white. So I'm gonna let this sit for 6 hours so that it has the time to rise, and that's when I'll check it again. The YouTube video that I've been watching is Preppy Kitchen, and his name is John. He is not using Kamut flour. He started out with wheat flour, and then he went and added all-purpose flour. And I think at the end, when he started to make his actual bread, his sourdough starter was with wheat, and then all-purpose flour, and then when he went to make his actual sourdough bread, he added in the bread flour. I've been doing Kamut this whole time. Kamut and nothing but Kamut. So 6 hours have passed, and it's time to check my sourdough. Okay, so here we are. Let's check the sourdough. It has risen, and it does bounce back. It's not bouncing back all the way. It's not soft like the videos. It's got a kind of a hard, so we'll see what that does. But I'm going to go ahead and proceed. Now, this is still going to have, I'm going to put this in the refrigerator for 12 hours because it's late. It's going on 9 p.m. here. See, I think that looks, it's actually looking a little bit better. And so mine is a heavier flour. I'm using Kamut, so I'm not surprised that I don't have the fluffiness on one hand. Of course, I want it to be fluffy. It does feel kind of good. There's a softness to it. So my hopes are going up just a little bit more. Now that I've done that, because I don't want to overwork it, you know. So one of the things that John at the Preppy Kitchen said was to take your dough and to make sure you turn it with the smooth side down. And you can see where, yeah, I didn't get that very well worked out. And you know what? That's okay. It's my first sourdough, and I'm breaking all the rules. And so he had us put a little bit more flour on it and spread it out, because what's going to happen is as it rises, it's going to hit the sides. That's going to be on the bottom. When I flip it over to put it in to the pan itself, it's going to be on the bottom. So I'm not going to worry about that. So I am going to take it and tuck it, and I'm going to wrap it in plastic. for 12 hours and stick it in the refrigerator so that it can have a good slow rise. And then tomorrow I'll pull it out and I will bake it. I'm excited. Okay, good morning. It's morning here when I'm filming this, and it's been 12 hours since I put my sourdough to rise to prove in the refrigerator. So I'm gonna go get it out. Okay, now I have my oven preheating. It's going up to 500 degrees, and I'm gonna put my cast iron Dutch oven, and I'm like so thankful to have it. I have a lot of Lodge cast iron skillets, and so this particular size with this lid is perfect. This is the first time I've used it for baking bread, and I'm really excited to see how this will turn out. But we're gonna put this in the oven for an hour at 500. I'm gonna pull my dough out and also let it sit for an hour while this gets nice and hot. Okay, so our hour is up. The crock pot has been preheating for an hour. This has been rising for an hour, and it's time to get it out of the oven. Okay, it's really hot. I had some things fall on the bottom. I need to clean my oven. So the thing is you want to be really, really, really careful seasoning the pot at the same time. Little pan. You want to be really very careful because this is 500 degrees is scorching hot. Okay, so I actually could have left that in the oven for just a little bit longer because I have this to do first. See, I'm very new at this and I'm forgetting. So what Preppy Kitchen told me to do next is take my parchment paper and flip it over. We're going to very carefully, I did flour that very well. See, we've got even excess flour here. So we're gonna brush that off. And we're really done shaping. We're just brushing it off. And get that to the sides now. I was talking with my husband yesterday about needing a razor to score the bread. And I don't have a razor. So he has a barber's razor. Disclaimer, it has never been used before. So there's no oil on it. There's no facial hair on it. I can use it. So if anybody goes, but that's not the kind of razor you should have, we're improvising. All right, so here I have this. Now, I'm never claimed to be an artist. So I'm just letting you know that I'm not promising anything beautiful. But the thing is, they say to lightly score, and since I'm first timing, I'm absolutely doing everything exactly the way I saw it in the video. So I'm making little pretty marks over here. To me, this kind of looks like a feather. It's very pretty. And we'll just see how that works out. Ooh, that's hot. And we pick up parchment paper, place it inside, and pull it on. It goes back in the oven. For 20 minutes. And then we'll reduce the heat, take the lid off, and let it cook for 20 more minutes, and hopefully we will have some delicious sourdough bread to try. So I'm going to lift the lid off. Oh, actually, I'm getting a peek inside. Looks, actually doesn't look bad. It may not have risen as much as I would like, but it's not looking bad. So, timer has gone off again. This is it. This is my first attempt. Let's see how it looks. Ooh, not too bad, not too bad, not too bad. Close this so we can get a close-up look at the bread. That actually doesn't look too bad. It may not be as fluffy as I would like. It is a Kamut grain instead of a bread flour. It's not a white flour, it's not a bread flour, it's Kamut, so it's heavy. So we're gonna take this, put that down. That was hot, put my finger. We'll take this, put it over here. Look at it a little more closely. So yeah, I didn't get a rise, like, you know, it didn't get all big and fluffy, but you could see it split. So we're gonna let it cool for about, not real long, 5 minutes maybe, because you're supposed to let it cool, but I want to see how it tastes. I want to cut into it, put some butter on it, and see how good it is. Here we are. It's been more than 5 minutes, but yeah, I want to go ahead and taste and see. So I'm going to cut in. Oh, it is very crusty. All right. So yeah, I don't have the bubbles. If you look inside, it's flat. I don't have the bubbles that you want on a sourdough. It's really dense. It needed to prove some more. So even though it bounced back a little bit when I did the bounce back test, it really didn't prove enough. So let's see how it tastes. I just get a hint of sour. Not a lot. It's crunchy, but it's definitely not fluffy. So that could be two things as I talk with my mouth full. That could be I didn't heat my water to 90 degrees, so it may not have activated the yeast. And I'm using Kamut flour. Now that could be just the one thing or the other. I think with the Kamut bread, it's gonna have to proof more because this is so dense. It tastes fine. Yeah, it's chewy, but it's just so underproofed. There's no, if you come and look, like there's this one hole right there, but everything else is really tight, so it's not fluffy. But for me, not having a perfect loaf isn't really a problem. Would I like for it to have been perfect? Absolutely, yeah. But it's a learning curve. I'm learning how to make this. It's new to me. And the first time I made homemade biscuits, they were like bricks. So I have, my homemade biscuits now are not bricks. They're light and fluffy and delicious. So now it's like, it's just learning. It's a learning curve. I know what not to do and what to try differently next time. And warming up that yeast to that 90 degrees so that it's activated really could be the key. And then letting it bounce back a little bit more in the rising might be another thing. It's a Kamut, it's a heavy grain, so it may just need more than 12 hours. So that's what we'll do next time. Thanks.